Hey everyone, Warwick's here. So I put up a post on the community page kind of showing my excitement for this particular video. Heavy as the Crown was put out by VoicePlay yesterday as I record this, and I was not expecting this. I follow most of these guys on social media, and I didn't catch any hints of this at all. So the fact that this kind of dropped out of nowhere, at least for me, was quite the surprise, and it makes me excited. As I mentioned in the post, it has some video game crossover to it. So for those of you that are not aware, let's talk about the video game aspect first, and then I'll talk about the fact that it's a Linkin Park song and what that means to me. And if you want to skip this, I'll chapter everything below, so you can just skip to the first reaction. So the video game crossover aspect comes from the fact that this song, obviously you can see hashtag Arcane right here. So obviously ties to the TV show on Netflix, Arcane, which entered its final season and finished that up, I think, late last year. I still haven't finished season 2, so I'm still working my way through that. But it was also the theme song for League of Legends World Championship Tournament that happens usually, I think, in August, and was the theme there. This song in particular, I think, is very important. I think it was partnered with Riot Games to make this song and the themes of it because it has obviously impacts in the show Arcane itself, given the story of what's going on in season 2, at least so far that I've seen. But also it has some very fun themes in the League of Legends World Championship Tournament. The very short version of that is that the defending champions, an organization called T1, who have a player on their team who goes by the name of Faker, is considered the greatest of League of Legends history. He's won at this, well, now it's 5, but 4 world championships as he was coming into this over the course of like nine years or something like that. He's essentially the Tom Brady of League of Legends, and a lot of people arguably call him the greatest esports competitor of all time, even though he's not the one that made the most money. But basically, they were coming in to defend their crown. They did not come in necessarily as the favorites to win it all. But so the theme of Heavy is the Crown obviously revolved a lot around, can this team, who have had the same roster for 3 years, which in esports is ridiculously long, who have had the same roster for 3 years, in 2022, they made it to the finals, but they lost to another organization in the first year together. In the second year together, they won the tournament. And then this year they were trying to go back to back and become only the second time an organization will have gone back to back. The first one being T1 back in 2014, 2015, I think it was. Or 2015, 2016. It was one of those two. So the idea of the crown being heavy is very astute when you given that context. So yeah, lots of ties very heavily to Riot game products. Linkin Park being the group that's doing it is always interesting because obviously if you are someone that is of my age group, I would say anywhere between 30 and 45, Linkin Park was probably a big part of your formative years, your teens in particular, as they were for mine, because that's when they were, kind of hit their first peak with Hybrid Theory and Meteora, which is my favorite album of theirs, one that I still listen to today. But it's interesting that this was kind of the song that brought Linkin Park back, because I don't remember the year, unfortunately, but their original lead singer Chester Bennington unfortunately passed away, which was a shock in the industry and to the fan base, particularly because of the story behind it. Chester had a lot of mental health struggles, much like I've talked about a lot. So I've always identified a lot with Chester, even before I fully understood what my struggles were. Like, I didn't really come to understand that a lot of my struggles were mental health struggles until my late 20s. But hindsight being 2020, and kind of in some ways applying the knowledge that I've gained since, the age of 28, 29, when I first kind of started to realize the type of struggles that I was having. I've always very closely identified with Chester. Now Linkin Park is back with a new singer, Emily Anderson, who is great. She's got a pretty well established career in the music industry as well. And she was a controversial pick. A lot of people didn't think that a woman's voice fit with what they wanted Linkin Park to sound like. A lot of people wanted someone that sounded close to Chester, which is very hard to do because Chester's voice was incredibly unique, and anyone in the industry would have told you that. And then some people really loved the idea of Emily being the lead singer because it's now a woman that is considered the lead singer for one of rock music's greatest groups. And so it's a ceiling being broken in some ways. This is their first song that they released coming off of this new kind of formation of Linkin Park when they got back together. To me, it's the best song that they released. They did release a full album. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but that's a personal preference thing. It's not bad. It's just not for me. So yeah, that's kind of why I'm like excited about this. Is a band that I have uber respect for. It's my favorite new song that they've released, and it has a lot of tie into video games and things like that are obviously very closely tied to my heart. So real quick, before we get into the actual thing, again, for those of you that are new to my channel, that have never seen one of my videos before, my name is Corey. You can call me that, or you can call me Works. I answer to both. Works is my online gaming name. Obviously, it's the name of the channel. I've been using that name since 2005. So I've had it for a long, long time in the online gaming circles, with some minimal change from that. But I'm not a professional musician. I did drumline in high school, so I focused a lot on the drum aspect, and my natural singing range has me as a baritone bass. So obviously folks like Caesar Jeff and any baritones that come through are always something that I keep an eye on. I've been doing these videos for about 2.5 years. I don't upkeep it as well as I should, but I have a whole playlist of acapella reactions. You can go back and see the things that I was talking about in my very earliest videos to the things that I've talked about in my most recent ones. And I feel like I've come a long way, and just doing these videos has kind of connected me to music even tighter than what it has always mattered in my life, and go from there. So now that I've wasted 7 minutes of your time, or if you just skipped this, congratulations. Let's get into this video real quick. The way that I structure them is I listen to it all the way through one time. You just get my fat head in the bottom corner here, reacting to everything that you see. And then I do a second listen through that talks about, and where I pause and I break down the things that I think are really cool about this video. So we're going to dive right into it. This is the Heavy as the Crown, originally from Linkin Park, the acapella cover by VoicePlay featuring JNone.
In, you're late on the floor again. One knock at the door and then we both know how the story ends. You can't win if your white flag's out when the war begins. Aiming so high but swinging so low. Trying to catch fire but feeling so cold. Hold it inside and hope it won't show. I'm saying it's not, but inside I know today's gonna be the day you notice. Cause I'm tired of explaining what the joke is. This is what you ask for. Heavy is the crown. Fire in the sunrise. Ashes raining down. Try to hold it in, but it keeps bleeding out. This is what you ask for. Heavy is the crown. Turn to run, now look what it's become. Outnumbered 10-1, back then should've bit your tongue. There's no turning back, this path once it's begun. Whoa, already on that list. Say you don't want, but you can't resist. Living that sword when the pen won't miss. Watch it all falling apart like this. Today's gonna be the day you notice. Cause I'm tired of explaining what the joke is. This is what you asked for. Heavy is the crown. Fire in the sunrise. Ashes raining down. Try to hold it in, but it keeps bleeding out. This is what you asked for. Heavy is the crown. Today's gonna be the day you notice. Cause I'm tired of explaining what the joke is. This is what you asked for. This is what you asked for. This is what you asked for. Heavy is the crown. Fire in the sunrise, ashes raining down. Try to hold it in, but it is bleeding out. This is what you asked. This is what you asked for. This is what you asked for. This is what you asked for. Heavy as the crown, fire in the sunrise, ashes raining down. You try to hold it in, but it keeps bleeding out. This is what you asked for. Heavy as the crown. Hold on. Heavy as the crown. Heavy as the crown. Heavy as the
Ooh. Let's see if there's anything fun in the background here. Okay, I like the crown there. I saw that. I saw that. Very, very cool. Let's go into the credits as we always do on this. This was awesome. A little bit of a different take, obviously, from a standard rock song. I fully expected that. But VoicePlay did some things that I thought were very, very fun. And a few things that I noticed. I know it says acapella, but it didn't sound like they did full acapella here. I'm going to call them out on it and see if I'm wrong. We'll see. Anyways, let's go into the credits here. So this was a Lane and Ellie thing. I know that Ellie has been, over the last year in particular, has really stepped in and done more to help the kind of day-to-day operations of what's going on. Ellie was, of course, one that did the video, and he and Ellie and Lane with the creative concepts. Of course, Ed, as always, does their audio mixing, with Lane, Ellie, and Jeff all doing the direction on it. Ellie and Lane did the lighting on it, with Kathy, of course, as they're always PM. Matt Hutchins, who's become kind of their Steadicam operator for a lot of stuff they do, particularly out of Patty Cake. Ogie Saravich is the camera assistant. Brandon Wood, the PA. And Resident Illness Norovirus. Yeah, I think I probably had that. By the way, if my voice sounds a little bit crap, that's probably what it is. I was sick this week as well. My fever broke literally this morning, and I got a little extra sleep, so I decided to record on these. Plus, I told you I was going to have these out by Sunday as you're watching this, so damn it, I'm going to hold my end of the bargain. Nothing there about it particularly. Of course, filmed at Patty Cake Productions, so Tony Joaquim obviously was involved and around on this as well, so very, very cool. Like I said, it's very different from what we expect from a traditional rock song, but that's to be expected. They're a cappella group, not a rock group. But a lot of things that I think are pretty damn cool. So if you're here for just the video, that's probably the end of these. Use about 5-6 minutes for you, nice and sweet and short. For those of you that want to stick around for the longer shenanigans that I like to get into on these videos, let's dive into it. Let's start with costuming. So I'm someone that loves Arcane Season 1, and I'm getting into Arcane Season 2. Probably going to restart the season just to watch it again, because I'm only like 2 episodes in, so it won't take me that long to do so. So I know that these guys are probably dressed as various different characters from Season 2 of the show. Because I'm not super familiar with Season 2 of the show, I don't recognize all of them. The only one that I can probably point out is that Caesar here, given the shoulder thing that he's got going on. I think he's Echo, which if you're familiar with the characters of the show, perfect for Caesar. Basically, all he needs is the white face paint, and he would pretty much look almost exactly like Echo, in my opinion. But if there's anyone that has a comment on which characters are being represented by which member here, please throw them down in the comments, and let's talk about it. So let's dive right back into this here.
It's pouring in.
So we get a nice little section here at the start. Sorry, I was pulling something that I want to talk about a little bit later, because I caught it during my initial listen through, and I want to do some, we're going to do some nerd beats by minute stuff. So we get this nice little opening section, this kind of really just establishes, in a way, the initial feel for the song. The original song obviously has more of an instrumental based intro that leads into a more kind of traditional Linkin Park. So Linkin Park, one of the things that make them so unique and what made them so popular so fast was that they were one of the kind of early adopters of truly blending in aspects of traditional rock, hip hop, DJing, and screamo. So we're getting all these facets that get blended into their music. So Chester was an incredibly screamo artist. If you've heard the way that he could just put so much rock grit into his voice, it was incredible. Mike Shinoda, who JNone's about to mirror here, is a fantastic, and has done some other projects that envelop a lot of the rap and hip hop genres. And then of course they have their traditional 2 guitars, drums that bring in the kind of traditional rock aspects of it. Now, they're not the first group to blend hip hop and rock together. I mean, you saw it with things like Aerosmith and Run DMC is the earliest one that I can remember, being 37 years old. But I'm sure it's not like a new concept that they did. They just did it in a way that no one else really was able to make successful and sustainable through multiple things. And because they added things like a DJ booth, they were able to bring in different types of sounds that not a lot of other groups were doing at the time, and many groups have since then mimicked. So it was very, very cool on that front. But I like this intro because it just kind of establishes the voice. Now, one thing, I know this is a cappella, so this is probably more of a mixing thing that they did on the back end. But these drum samples that these drums that we're getting from Lane here, even though he's not doing them visually, sound very much like samples. It is impressive, actually. Let me get into
It's pouring in, you're late on the floor again. One knock at the door and then we both know how the story ends. Can't wait if your white flags out when the war begins.
So those drums in the background, I'm sure those were Lane doing them, and they're just like very heavily modified on the back end with production value. But I mean, if that's Ed's work, then he did damn good work, because those sound like drum samples that are very similar to the ones that Jeff used in Carol of the Bells. So that is insane work on those guys' parts. I just wanted to shout that out early on. I'm going to trust that it's true acapella, but if not, I'm calling you out, VoicePlay, for not being true acapella on this song, because those sound like sampled drums. So again, if you put the work in to make them sound that way on purpose, that's a hell of an effort by you guys and Ed. But if it's not, I see what you're doing. I don't respect you any less for it, but don't say it's acapella. It's probably the former.
So high, I'm swinging so low. Trying to catch fire, but feeling so cold. Hold it inside and hope it won't show. I'm saying it's not, but inside I know. Today's gone.
So this opening section is like very much, when I first heard Heavy is the Crown, the original version, I thought this was actually a very smart decision on the part of Linkin Park, because, like I said, when Emily Anderson was announced as being the new lead singer for Linkin Park, it was not a universally well-liked decision. So to have the first song that they released, the first voice that you hear out of it is Mike Shinoda, who is original member, was a kind of a way for new fans to be introduced to a guy that they're going to hear a lot of. Because a lot of new fans probably came in like, oh, I want to hear what this girl sounds like in this band that, you know, people are very upset about for whatever reason. But for older fans like myself who listened to them in the early 2000s, this is kind of like an olive branch to them to know that Shinoda is still going to be very much involved. The first voice you hear is a familiar one. And so it builds like a sense of comfort with this new era of Linkin Park. So I just really like that they did that from a band standpoint. And of course, JNone being the one to rap it, obviously he did the rap section in Valhalla Calling. So it's natural that he would kind of be the one to mirror that Mike Shinoda role. And he does an excellent job with it. I really like the combination of obviously hitting the right tone, but there's a breathiness that JNone added to it that adds a nice little texture to it that I think is really, really cool. And then we get these, of course, amazing background oohs and ums, a little bit of texture in the background with Lane there and Ellie and Caesar, of course, which is very cool. And then, of course, here Caesar gets to jump in and, you know, pulls back the hood. I believe this is of Echo, which, you know, Caesar being the most theater kid of theater kids group here, always finding little ways to add a little drama to everything that he does in a scene, which is very cool.
Gonna be the day you notice, 'cause I'm tired of explaining what the joke is. This is what you ask for, heavy is the crown, fire in the sunrise, ashes raining down, try to hold it in but it keeps bleeding out. This is what
A little bit of distortion on the background. We get JNone's natural voice, and then they double tracked him and added that distortion underneath. Very cool. They do this a few different times in this song, which for them is not something they do a ton of. They experiment with it when it's appropriate, but it is something that Linkin Park does a lot of. So again, these little odes to the original song, or at least the style and approach that Linkin Park has taken in the past, are very, very cool. The other thing that obviously this is what you asked for. Heavy is the crown. That line is obviously the main chorus. It's the one that everyone knows. Having Ellie be the one to be the lead on it every time after this, I think is a very wise decision. Him being like the rock tenor of this group, it just fits, and it again gives that connection and that tie to Emily Anderson, because a lot of the times this chorus is the first time that you hear her. But I like VoicePlay's decision to have JNone do this. Obviously, JNone is the featured artist, so you want to give him a very early spotlight to shine. VoicePlay pretty much universally does that with all of the collaborators that they bring in, whether it's a guy like JNone, who to me is essentially member number 5, and then he gets busy and has to go off and do things for the Navy. Or it's someone like, Ashley Diane, or Anthony Gargiulia, or DJ Young, who I saw on a couple shorts that they released. They always find a way to give their featured artist an early time to shine, so people can understand the voice of the person that's joining VoicePlay on this journey of this particular song. So I like the decision that they made to do that, but the fact that they then pivoted to Ellie for the rest of the choruses that come through is very, very good.
You ask for heavy is the crown.
Little underrated moment here that I caught the first time, but I don't know if a lot of other people did. So I love that they gave Lane the heavy is the moment. Obviously Lane's known for the vocal percussion, and I think in interviews and stuff like that, he said he prefers more the vocal percussion side. Obviously can sing, was a singer before he became the vocal percussionist, but just prefers that aspect of Rum now that he's been doing it for so long. I don't think Lane, even in the VoicePlay fan base, always gets the credit for being the good singer that he is. And this is an opportunity for him to show off just a little bit of range. Because in a lot of these other songs where he does a lot of vocal stuff, it's either like speak rapping in a way as you think of the Maui rap section in Moana. You think of, in We Don't Talk About Bruno, he kind of did that. And even then added more vocal percussion aspects to it with the sound of falling sand. And then we get like small moments that are in more his natural range for things like I Can't Make You Love Me. We just had that really one standout line of because I can't make you love me, which when I originally watched it, and if you watch that video from me, that's the one line that officially breaks me, considering everything going on in my life at that time. I've talked about it before. It's in community posts. Go check it out. So he doesn't get a lot of opportunity to truly have moments to show off just what he can do. And in part, I think that's very intentional on his part. He's the vocal percussionist. He loves doing that part. He doesn't want to, even though he can sing well, he doesn't always want to do that. And that's a choice that he makes. But the fact that he gets this little moment, and I don't know if Ellie forced him into this in the arrangement or if Lane put it in himself, but I just want to give it a little moment to show that I appreciate that they gave Lane this moment.
Is what you ask for. Heavy is the crown. Turn to run, now look what is.
So we transition into what I call phase 2. So one of the things that I've noticed with VoicePlay, and there's 2 songs that really kind of tie together because they're both in the rock genre, and that's this one and Nothing Else Matters. So VoicePlay structures their approach to actual music, or like rock music at least, these 2 tracks, they tied them together very similarly. You get this very pulled back, not mega complex section. Like in this whole first section, it's just a lot of oohs and ahs with some background text, and Jeff just holding a series of steady notes. He's not doing anything crazy run-wise. He's not doing insane, ridiculous subharmonic stuff that he's capable of doing and that we do get a little bit later in this song. It's very pulled back at the start. And if you remember Nothing Else Matters, we get that a lot too. Now, Jeff drops a subharmonic like 8 seconds in, but the basic outline of both songs is the same. We get this first little section that lasts about a minute, about 2 minutes, and Nothing Else Matters because they legitimately did the full-on like intro to that song. Then we get like a section 2 where they start to add these little touches. Now we're getting Lane full-out beatboxing. We're going to get more complex background text, and you're probably going to hear Jeff doing a little bit more in the bass track. Nothing Else Matters, it was the same thing. And then you get your big epic section. So we get that with the build up into the first Ellie led chorus. We're getting that in Nothing Else Matters. It was the lead up to Violin. And then we get this moment that's supposed to blow your mind. Violin and Nothing Else Matters. And this kind of dubstep introduction that they did with VoicePlay, where there's just a lot going on. It's like overwhelming almost. And then they end it by pulling back to where they started. So they structured these two songs very, very similar. And I just noticed and thought about that as I was listening to this song. So I just wanted to point it out. If anyone disagrees with me or agrees with me on that, let me know. But that's just the vibe that I get from it.
Become outnumber 10 to 1. Back then should have bit your tongue. There's no turning back, this path once it's begun. Whoa, already on that list. Say you don't want, but you can't resist. Waving that sword when the pen won't miss. Watch it all falling apart like this. Today's gone.
So I like that they use JNone's like hand swipe as a way to be like a camera swipe. Very cool editing on the part of Ellie for that. And how do I know that we're full into a section 2? They all become more animated. So the very first sections, they're very pulled back, very almost stoic in a way. And now they're starting to become a little bit more animated, and they're going to get even more animated, and then they're going to pull back at the end. So that's kind of how the structure to me appeals to it here. So let's go back so we can get into the transition into, I think it's Caesar's lead line here.
Sword when the pen won't miss. Watch it all falling apart like this. Today's gonna be the day you notice. Cause I'm tired of explaining what the joke is. This is what you asked for. Heavy is the crown. Fire in the sunrise. Ashes raining down. Try to hold it in, but it keeps bleeding out. This is what you asked for. Heavy is the crown.
So I love that Ellie was the main lead on this for this time of the chorus, because him and Emily actually sound kind of familiar. Emily can put a lot of grit in her voice. It's actually impressive. Go check out the original song on it if you haven't before, but she's incredibly talented. One other thing that I'm going to talk about here is VoicePlay made a decision, I think, if I'm doing the calculations in my head correctly, and I've got a metronome up on my second screen to find out. So the original song is 128 beats a minute, which is pretty normal for most music that is considered mainstream. Like most songs that are not very specifically designed for a purpose. Like a lot of love songs pull back on the tempo. Songs that are meant to get you, EDM is obviously always sitting at like 130, 140 beats a minute at times. This song for Heavy is the Crown, the original version sits at 128 beats a minute. So here's your tempo. We're not getting that speed here. So I'm going to go back a little bit in this song, and I'm going to try to see if I can figure out the tempo. So you're going to hear the clicking because I'm trying to get it to match up. Go back a little bit here.
This is what you asked for. Heavy is the crown.
Yeah. So they're sitting around 120 beats a minute. So they pulled it back the tempo just slightly, which is fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Just a little thing that I've noticed. So again, even something as simple as changing the tempo, like you wouldn't think 8 beats per minute is that noticeable. For someone like me, it really is. Considering I've played songs that are been as slow as 60 beats a minute. Just to give you an idea here. So 60 beats a minute, which is 1 beat every second. 60. Every second. I played songs this slow before. 2 songs that I've done at 180 beats a minute, which is insane, by the way. I don't know how we did it. So yeah, I've done the spectrum. So for me, going from 128 to 120, I noticed that. So just interesting, just something I caught. I tried to do things like catch the beats for a minute and stuff like that on these songs and things like that, because I'm always curious about it. So that's something that we'll probably integrate more in the future. Just trying to figure out what their BPM on it is. But just something that I caught. It's about 8 to 10 beats slower, which is not a problem at all.
Today's gonna be the day.
So we get our chorus into a transition section, which is all designed to fool you. This is them pulling what is dubbed a musical magic trick. So this happens a lot in video game music. So forgive me if we're getting into a little bit of nerdy here. So magic trick is something that what happens is that the real power of whatever is going on is it's of things like good music. What it does is it always messes with your expectations. It plays with the things that your brain interprets to be groovy, in a not a great word to use, but it's kind of the word to use, or to elicit a certain emotion out of you. So you think of a song like I'm going to go back to Octopath Traveler real quick, because there's a town in the Octopath Traveler soundtrack called the Frostlands, or that's a region rather. And that song is meant to elicit both peace but also sadness out of you, because it's a very snowbanked area. And a lot of people think it's because of the main rhythm, but it's not. It's everything going on underneath that's actually that's pushing your brain into feeling a certain type of emotion. What VoicePlay is doing here is a little bit different than that. They're basically trying to distract you. They're trying to make you forget that what they just did was very, very cool, and they're about to do something that's a little bit wildly different by having this kind of interlude section that mirrors what they did at the very beginning of the song. So this is them kind of pulling almost a musical sleight of hand in a way, is that they're trying to make you forget about something else that just happened so that they can then get away with doing something else that is going to cause a reaction out of you. Now, I just wanted to point that out. Think about it a little bit. Let's go back a little bit. Listen to the end of this, listen to the interlude, and then listen to what comes after.
This is what you asked for. Heavy is the crown. Today's gonna be the day you notice, 'cause I'm tired of explaining what the joke is. This is what
Major to minor there. Shout out.
you asked for. With the joke.
And you want to know when they pull the distraction away? The moment Jeff sings.
This is what you asked for.
So like I was expecting him to go down, but then he goes for, and then he kind of warbles, goes up like a half note, kind of building with everyone else. I mean, you saw me in the initial reaction. I kept doing this. I was waiting for it, and he didn't do it. This is, again, all part of the illusion of trying to distract you. That background text, and then whatever noise came out of Lane's mouth. Listen to it. Like, really, Lane? I love that. And look, he's looking at the camera. Like, he knows what he just did to us. For those of us that caught it. Look at this man. He knows. He knows. You ain't fooling anyone, Lane. But I appreciate that you tried.
What you asked for.
Ellie just held a note for 16 beats. Now, I'm sure for him that's not a big deal. I'm impressed. I'm a drummer, so I don't hold notes for shit. I have no breath control. Yeah, just wild. And again, it's a tease in this case. So Ellie's sitting there holding and sustaining this note with that grit involved in it. It's all meant to tease you for what about to come at the 2:20 mark of this song. So we're going to go back a little bit. To just give Ellie some respect on holding this note, because this is just ridiculous. But even JNone, Jeff, and Caesar are doing some very cool things in the background that I want to point out real quick.
This is what you asked for.
Oh, in the background. Really like that. And then this is what you asked for.
This is what you asked.
One beat of silence. All it takes. completely change your approach right now. Love it. And then we don't get into this epic drop. They build it again. They're teasing and they're teasing and they're teasing. And then when the drop comes, it is, to me, epic. So let's give Jeff some love. This is one of the few lead lines that he gets here.
This is what you asked for. Heavy is the crown. Fire in the sunrise. Ashes raining down.
Again, he drops almost, I don't think it's a full octave, but it's close. And then he drops again to hit the next note here. Listen to it.
Fire in the sunrise. Ashes raining down. Try to hold it in, but it keeps bleeding out. This is what you asked. This is what you asked for. This is what you asked for.
I was fully waiting for Jeff to just hit the basement, and he didn't. So if you're a VoicePlay fan waiting for it, you've been teased. And then they do this, which is, again, I'm waiting. Eventually Mortius will put out his video on this, I think. And if he does, he's going to love this section because it's his favorite musical technique, where they do this big build, silence drops out, and then you get hit with it.
This is what you asked for. This is what you asked for. Heavy is the crown. Fire in the sunrise. Ashes raining down. Try to hold it.
Ashes raining down. Love it. I love what they did with the drums, again, adding their own little flavor, that doo-dum, 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 doo-dum. And Jeff following him on those notes, dropping notes every single time. Very, very cool stuff. And then Ellie just going to hit us with this ridiculous belt here. You asked for and I mentioned the distortion earlier. They play it right back here. And they're paying a little bit of ode to Mike Shinoda's DJing here, because you're hearing things like record scratching and things like that are coming through in this section. And this is where they get to the point of, the violin section and Nothing Else Matters. I know I'm making a lot of ties, but again, the structures to me are the same. This is where they start to do so much that you are almost overwhelmed by it in your head and by your brain trying to process it all. This is a section that I could go back and listen to like 4 times, and I would probably spend like 30 minutes just on this section alone if I try to point out everything that I'm hearing. It's crazy. And they're again, it's all the magic trick. They've spent the last 45 seconds or so distracting you so that when then this drops, you're not expecting it. You're expecting something to continue more in the traditional rock song repetitive vein that a lot of modern pop music, modern rock music, and to a lot of extent rap music is starting to adopt it a lot as well, where there's a repetitive nature because that's what people remember. VoicePlay is playing on that expectation, if you know the structure of modern music, by doing the things that they're doing, and then they drop this like dubstep trap remix in the middle of it all, and it's just ridiculous. And then we get our Jeff drop that we've been waiting for like 30 seconds on, and Lane does whatever he's about to do here. What bow? Crazy. And then we get just Ellie's just belting out of his mind. It's amazing. Oh, by the way, we're all distracted by Ellie doing it. Listen to Jeff here. I don't know what note he's doing, but he's hitting some fat sub that had, I don't know if it was distortion or if he did it as well, like just warbling his mouth a little bit. But while Ellie's belting at the top and JNone's about to join him here, Jeff is doing something over here that is, I hope it gets noticed by more people because it is nuts to me. He's just over here, just deep in the basement. And then our transition to the end, there's a visual signal for it and a musical signal for it. Everything pulls back, no more drums, Jeff is back to holding standard notes. And visually, Caesar throws up the hood. We're back full circle. So yeah, just wild. Just wild. Excellent, excellent work, VoicePlay. Thank you so much for dealing with the norovirus and taking the time to put this together for us, because I love this piece. Let me do the thing that I tell everyone to do on my videos, which is to click this button right here. And then make sure you're clicking this button right here on my channel, VoicePlay's channel. Although if you're watching this channel, you're probably already doing all this for VoicePlay. And we'll go from there. And if you happen to pay attention to the very top of the screen, this one's coming in the next day or so. So until the next video, I hope you all stay safe. Hope you enjoy yourself. You're having fun. You keep on listening to great music. And we'll see you next time.